This programme is funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.
I'm okay on computers, but my husband would be fixing the computers before I would be. But I'm running the digitalisation program, and I think that shows you that if you can work with people and build a trust and build relationships and develop your skills around all of that, you can run any team.
Hello, I'm Maria Staunton.
And I'm Mary Costello.
And this is Making It, the show that reveals the true stories of Mayo's women in business. From top executives, to artists, to female founders, to those providing essential services in our local towns.
Stay with us for the next 20 minutes. And who knows, you might hear the advice or inspiration you need to get your own dream off the ground. Hi, I'm Mary Costello. Welcome to Making It. Now, a lot of our guests are entrepreneurs who've written their own job descriptions. And this week's guest is no different, except that she's not an entrepreneur. This week, I'm talking to Louise Foody, Director of Digital and Brand at Kingspan Group. And in 2017, she was named one of the 25 most powerful women in Ireland. Louise is a Claremorris native. So before we get into her career, I asked her to tell me about her upbringing.
Oh, absolutely delighted to do that and lovely to talk to you here today. Yes, I am very proud to say that I am from Claremorris, and wherever I go all over the world, I always meet Mayo people, whatever it is that we seem to like to travel. I grew up on the Ball Road. My dad was a teacher there in St. Coleman's, and a lot of people would know him around the town, and my mum, Sean and Mary Foody. And I had a wonderful upbringing and enjoyed everything that Claremorris had to offer. And I was actually in a meeting there a couple of months ago, and it was somebody I hadn't met in a very long time. And he said to me, Louise, I met a lot of people from Claremorris, and I've known you a very long time, and you came into my mind because now I know why you're all so successful down there, whatever it is that's in the air. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
And you have a BA in International Commerce and Italian. Why did you choose to do commerce in the first place?
Yeah, I guess I was lucky enough in the sense that business was always something that I was very interested in from a very young age. And not that long ago, somebody was asking me, what games did you like to play as a kid? And I thought it was a very interesting question. And I said, things like Monopoly and Hotel, and they seem to have this kind of business angle to it that I didn't even realize till I kind of reflected back on it. But I clearly always had an interest in that type of thing, if it was even the games I was interested in.
Louise's first job in sales came early, at the age of 13, helping on a stall in Knock, selling souvenirs. And her first management position came soon after, in Tranyear.
When I was in transition year, we had the opportunity to set up a mini company. So I guess the business person in me was like biting at the chop to have a go at this, and we were interviewed for the roles and responsibilities and who was going to take what position. And lo and behold, Louise was the general manager. So I was biting at the chop to get going at this, and it was just an amazing experience. And I remember negotiating with Sister Regina, who was our teacher of home economics at the time, and she was trying to convince me to spend more time with her we were making and sewing these objects, and I was like, I have no time for this, I need to be running my company. And I managed to talk myself out of not going to her class all year. And I kind of regret that now, because I wouldn't be much use at sewing anything. And I often think back on that, maybe there was a lesson in doing something a bit more balanced there. But within the company then, we called ourselves Manic Idols, and I remember it so clearly because it definitely, for me, was the beginning of an experience that I still live by today. I still live in that world of general management and managing things. And when I look back at that person versus me now, I suppose the biggest difference is I tried to do everything myself. So as you get experience, you realize that strategy isn't going to work. So you get better at trusting people and building your teams and that, whereas I would have taken a lot of that stuff on and it had to be my way and I had a way of doing it. But
After her degree in NUIG, she joined a master's programme at the Smurfit Business School. Each participant was assigned a role in the group, and Louise's job was to scout for recruitment opportunities.
I was investigating all these different companies and Kerry groups and Board B, and there was all these options there to look at. And this was 2004, 2005, so Ireland was booming. The job opportunities there was just every corner you turn, and the big retail, Aldi and those guys were doing big, huge recruitment at the time. But Kingspan was launching their first graduate program. So I announced this in the class and I spoke about the interviews were coming up in a couple of weeks and this was the application process, and I entered myself, and I don't did I think at the time, even when I was going for the interview, that I would be here kind of 15 years later as a director in the company and really, embedded into life there. It was just, there was something about the people who interviewed me, Mary, and the culture there, that it just felt like somewhere I would like to work. The fact that it was construction materials company, maybe in the back of my mind, there was something there, the fact that I had grown up in a house where my dad was a construction teacher and I had been on building sites. And the other side of it was, there's just something interesting about buildings. And I can't say that was the thing that set me off on that journey. I think it was more the internationalization of the business and the idea that, someday we might be in America. And now nearly 30% of our business in Kingspan is in the Americas, as it happened. But it was that kind of growth that excited me. So I applied, I got the job. I was actually the only one in my class that did get on that graduate program, as it happened. And I think also the fact that it was the first graduate program, there was something kind of, I was thinking, I could go in there and maybe shape some of this and see what happens. And that, I guess I did, as it happened. And I've had a really nice career there so far.
And one of the things that attracted Louise to a career with a multinational was the excitement of travel.
So although, doing local work in your local town and selling and marketing things, like, it is no different doing that in New York or Toronto or Milan or wherever it might be. It's all the same principles, but I don't know, I just get some sort of buzz out of exploring all of that culture and watching it unfold in the different countries. And I actually relocated to Canada for over 5 years, and I spent that time in Toronto from 2007 onwards. And I actually relocated back to Ireland in 2011 when a lot of people were going that way, which was quite interesting.
Was that a big decision then to decide, you know what, I'm going to head home?
Yeah, I think the big decision was, sometimes you hear the words like going back home, right? Or going back to wherever, and it might sometimes feel like it's a step back, right? Because we use that term. So that used to enter my head, am I going backwards instead of forwards? Because when you were moving country to country or going to places, it always felt forward moving. Now, in fairness, I missed very little family events because I always made it a priority, and I was always lucky enough to be able to come home, but I just wanted to be there for all of those things. I didn't want to miss the christenings, I didn't want to miss the birthday parties, and I just wanted to be around that, and had established myself enough career-wise that I had the confidence enough to, stay in my job and progress. And I spoke to the guys in the company and I was like, look, I want to go back, and if there's a career opportunity, I'll jump with it. And yes, of course there was, and got a very interesting job, and absolutely no regrets. It was okay. There's a couple of great decisions I made in my life, but that was definitely one, because I can't think of anywhere in the world I would rather live.
Fantastic. It's great to hear that, Louise, because, sometimes after travelling the world like that, you just wonder, am I making the right path? And we'll say for a work-life balance, So, what would your three tips be? Would say, busy lady running several businesses, several different countries. So, how do you come down or wind down, or what would you do that takes you away from all that?
Yeah, I think the most important part of answering that would be to make sure you don't get too wound up. Like this idea of winding down, right? And for years, I would have been wound up, I guess is the term where you have to wind back down. Like when I think of, running trade shows in Chicago or launching products in Moscow or wherever we might be, right? Of course, there's an adrenaline rush with all that stuff. It's incredibly exciting. You're, meeting people, you're out doing progressive things for the organization and for yourself. So there is a natural high with all of that, right? But to manage that, really the best thing is to try and take those things in your stride. Take the good and the bad and the falls and the good things that happen you, like as calmly as you possibly can. Now, I am a person, and you probably know from talking to me here, is like I get excited about things, so I have to manage that, like in the sense of okay, there's whatever hours in the day, and these things will need to get done, and just trying to balance that with your mindset. I think a huge amount of this is the mindset. So you can approach a meeting or a situation or a launch or whatever it might be, and not to try and get too carried away with the positivity, and try to then on the other side not get too carried away when things go wrong. And it's kind of that balanced mindset, I think, is something I have kind of practiced over the years.
So, how does that balanced mindset translate into leading a team? Louise now manages a large number of people across several countries. What's the key to that, especially now that it's all remote?
I think the biggest thing is trust. So, we have to have trust between me and the team amongst themselves. And that's huge, right? Because then I'm taking the fear away from them. And I think fear is a lot of people's problems in their working life, and probably in a lot of personal life as well, that you have fear of maybe making a decision. So building that trust between us and their confidence in themselves is enormously important. Like I run a digitalisation team now, right? And I am not a techie at all. I'm like a sales and marketing person, and we talked about that earlier, but I'm running the digital transformation at Kingspan, which in most organizations would be a technologist. It would be kind of a chief information officer type role. But I was asked to do this role for my leadership skills. I said, okay, right, I'll go in and I'll figure it out. I would joke with them that, yeah, I'm pretty good at PowerPoint. I'm not brilliant at it. I'm okay on computers, but my husband would be fixing the computers before I would be. But I'm running the digitalization program. And I think that shows you that if you can work with people and build a trust and build relationships and develop your skills around all of that, you can run any team.
Kingspan has always been at the forefront of the construction industry when it comes to innovation. Our digital vision is no different. It is a bold ambition that empowers our people to drive a world-class customer experience.
When we hear the word construction, sometimes, we may think, oh, we associate it with men or the males, But in 2020, the proportion of women in senior management roles globally was 29%. So what do you think it is, or how did you push through and excel in your career? And do you have any tips or something that you could share maybe with other women who might be starting out or thinking they're early in their careers now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you talk there about the construction industry, I completely would agree with your observation there. And people think the construction industry is boring as well. It's like, Jesus, men and hard hats, and you think, it has that kind of stigma with it as well. But I'm sure most people in the country are tuned into room to improve or grand designs, like, buildings and homes are kind of exciting things. But yes, they are traditionally very male dominated. And I actually, I guess I'm proud to say this, I was the first female director in Kingspan. How did I get there? Did I map that out? Absolutely not. I guess it just happened through progression. But did I see myself as different to others? No. Did I use the fact I was a female as an advantage? No. I was just myself, and it seemed to work. I never saw myself as different to the guys, and maybe that was the answer I'm looking for as I'm talking to you here. I saw myself as an equal, if not more. And I remember we did a management course over in Switzerland a couple of years ago, and I remember being in the room at the end of the Friday thinking to myself, yeah, I have everything here that any of these guys have, the top people in our organisation.
For someone so brimming with positivity and self-confidence, is there anything that scares Louise Foody?
I suppose what scares me would be that someday, the excitement of life could the excitement of life could not feel like it currently does, because you think you've achieved all these things. And it's like, how do you keep yourself excited? And someone asked me not that long ago, do you still have the fire? I told them I was in 15 years working, and they were like, and do you still have the fire? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, really? And I was kind of thinking, is that not what people have, right? So of not being excited about things, and I hope that doesn't happen. And I suppose I keep myself interested in things, so I can imagine if I was in the same job all the time, someone like me, I would have been, that fire might have kind of burned away. But I keep interesting things to do. So interesting projects, interesting jobs. I've never had a job in Kingspan that existed before. So every single job I've been in, I've created, or they've created it for me, or we've collectively. I don't know how that happened, but that is a fact. So there was never a job description of any job I've been in. I've kind of wrote those job descriptions, and I stayed there for a couple of years, and I set things up, and that excites me, setting things up and being involved in things. So I try and keep myself interested in that, whether it's talks in schools or whatever it is that I might be doing, that stuff that I get a little bit of a kick out of, I keep making sure that I do that. So even talking to you here today, I can feel, a little bit of excitement that it's nice to reflect on that stuff and talk to you.
And who has been your greatest female inspiration?
Oh, I would have to say the presidents of Ireland. Like, that's a very easy one for me to answer. Like Mary Robinson, Mary McAleese. When I look back at those women and what they did in the times that they did it, I think it's absolutely just off the charts. Particularly Mary Robinson in the years where she was, a Mayo woman, and I proudly say that. And I just think she was herself. She's always herself and still is absolutely herself. And I know she was an era pre-social media and pre all of that, but you'll go a long way before you'd meet somebody to say something bad about her. Yeah. So I just think really, really inspiring people who, made huge ground. And the lovely thing I would say about both of those women is never made a big deal about it. It's just who they are. And that's the piece I really admire. And it's a trait that I try to live by myself.
You've been listening to Making It. Thanks a million to my guest this week, Kingspan's Louise Foody. Join our community on Facebook to share your own experiences and questions with us, our guests and other listeners. Just search for Making It Mayo on Facebook. You can also email us at makingitmayo@gmail.com or tweet us at makingitmayo. This show was recorded remotely for Claremorris Community Radio. Find more fascinating local stories at ccr946.ie. I'm Mary Costello. Until next time, thanks for listening.
This programme is funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.